NEVERNESS to EVERNESS is officially a week away, and my gosh, is it gaining traction crazy fast. I've easily accumulated over 100 hours playing on stream, off stream, and I've put a ton of time into the version I'm currently filming this intro on. Hi. And I even skipped going out on my birthday to stream the last beta test. My goal here is to use that knowledge to give you an overview on the world of NTE so you can decide if it's worth your time. And if you're already waiting for the game to finally release, hopefully I can make you even more excited. To do this, I'm going to be going over some core aspects of the game in sections. Those sections will be story, open world and exploration, gacha and monetization, the combat, and the daily gameplay loop. If you would like to see more NTE content and would like to help me keep creating it, consider subscribing to the channel and liking the video because it really does help me and the video out an absolute ton. And let's get right on into it. The NEVERNESS to EVERNESS story takes place in a modern, urban open-world city named Hetheru. In this city, normal life and anomalies coexist side by side in day-to-day life. Anomalies can take many forms, whether that be a giant film reel who really wants to take your head off, a collection of mannequins spread across a school that make you do a variety of puzzles, or even a dog made out of french fries whose ultimate goal is to give tasty fries to the masses. 40 years before the game takes place, something referred to in-game as an anomaly disaster took place, bringing forth a lot of hostile and powerful anomalies into the world. Some humans in this world have awakened supernatural abilities of their own and are known as Espers. We play as Esper Zero, who finds the Avon antique shop and starts their life as an anomaly hunter alongside their own little group, and that's roughly where your journey in Hetheru begins. I've left out some details because I do want you to be able to experience the story for yourself, since I had originally opened NT for the first time just because I saw the open world mixed with the anime-esque theme, and I was excited to explore it and run around. But the second I opened the game, it took me under its storyline, and I really did just get engrossed before I even entered the open world. The characters have personality, and you almost instantly get the urge to just understand what's going on in the little area you were thrown into. Despite everything being supernatural, it doesn't feel like it was just thrown together. It feels like a real world that could exist somewhere out there. Of course, that is just the main story. The world has side quests scattered everywhere, and some of them I don't even understand how they're side quests. That fried dog I mentioned, he has a whole storyline searching for an evil raccoon who's stealing fries from the masses. Or you can form a band and play a rhythm game through every single song to go perform on whatever big stage this is. Or you can go to an auction house and somehow end up playing a Pokemon battle while bidding for the item. NT's story isn't all silly either. It has some points where it literally warns you to turn the volume down if you're easily scared. In these areas, it manages to make some genuinely unsettling atmospheres that you would expect from a world with anomalies literally scattered around it. I really feel NT's story is one of its strongest points. It is a great mix of fun, silly, serious, and unsettling, all at different times, and it knows when it wants to be what. Overall, it is just a great time, and something I think most people can enjoy, even if at first there's a lot to take in. Once you do start to understand it, it really is a pretty damn good storyline. Of course, this doesn't mean it's for everyone, but I have heard praises sung about it well more than I've heard it put down, and I do think that's a great sign. I already mentioned in the story section, this is where I originally was drawn to NEVERNESS to EVERNESS, and I'm happy to say it really didn't disappoint. I'm sure you've heard time and time again, anime GTA, but I don't think that the title suits the game as well as people seem to believe it does. Yeah, you can steal cars, shoot out tires, and even accumulate a 5-star wanted level that gets you literally sent to jail. But this game doesn't have everything GTA does, it doesn't feel like GTA, and it has a lot of things GTA frankly doesn't. I'm not saying it's better, I'm saying it's its own game. Even if it does take inspiration from other titles around this world, it doesn't feel like a cheap copy of anything really. And now, with that out of the way, let's talk about what this world does have to offer, because it's a lot. Let me start off by saying the world genuinely does feel alive. You can find NPCs everywhere, traversing the streets, talking to each other, some even just going about their daily lives and walking to and from work. Not only can you find NPCs wandering around, you can also find the characters you've gotten to know around the map just doing their own thing and initiate hangouts with them, which is something I really wish a lot more gachas would implement, because it feels like a shame in other titles when the only time you're able to interact with characters is when you're doing a quest. Exploration's even rewarded by scattering a ton of different collectibles around the map. You You can collect these birds, which turn into Oculus stones, and you trade them in for stamina increases and other little rewards. You have little anomaly encounters along the map, alongside some bigger ones you need to actually hunt down that really demand your attention, for lack of a better term. And even when you aren't actively searching for something, you can grab furniture for your house at a nearby trash can, pet a random puppy you found lounging around, visit the arcade and play on the claw machines, hit a family of 4 with your car, or just take in the sights of the world before you. Oh, none of that's your style? Grow in your own cozy little cafe, decorate it as you like, make a ton of money, buy a mansion atop a hill where you can invite all of your favorite characters to stay with you. This world really is yours to do as you wish, and it's so vast I couldn't possibly explain all it has to offer, but I do think there are parts of it to enjoy for everybody. It feels alive, it feels big, and it honestly just looks so nice. It really is a pleasure to explore and to get to know it. I do think it is something you have to experience for yourself. There's far too much that goes on in this game to really pack into one video that isn't hours long, but I really do think it's worth your time to do so when the game releases, just to see if you love it as much as a lot of other people do. NTE at the end of the day is a gacha game, and it needs to make its money somewhere, but its gacha model is still very generous, and that's why you hear so many people talking about it as such. I just made a video breaking down the entire NTE gacha system and all the numbers in detail, but for a brief overview, the character gacha is a board game. You play, you roll the dice to move your character along the board, and which tile you land on dictates what you get. Soft pity 70, hard pity's 90, and there's no 50-50 at all in the limited gacha. Every time you get the S rank, it'll be the limited character you're pulling for. That eliminates the terrible feeling of grinding for days to get 90 pulls, going all the way to hard pity, and going right back to where you started. And your pity does still carry over onto the next banner. Limited banners also have some extra rewards for pulling on them, for example, a glider, car livery, and a character skin, which you can either pull from the gacha or get from putting a certain amount of pulls into the banner. These counters also just carry over to the next time the characters rerun, instead of rolling over onto the next banner. Dupes are also set up in a very free-to-play friendly way, where you can choose your effect instead of having them locked behind a certain awakening. And this eliminates the problem of a character having a broken late awakening that you need to climb up all the early ones to obtain. There are special effects locked behind A3 and A6, but overall the system is far less restrictive than what other titles have. NTE's weapon banner system may be very different, with it having hard pity at 80 and no soft pity, but it guarantees you an extra S-class arc at 60, meaning most of the time, while you will go hard pity, you will put in 80 pulls, you'll get an extra arc along the way. A lot of arcs are also just farmable from bosses around the map, so you'll be showered in these things. The game will have some cosmetics that are paywalled, and a premium battle pass, which will probably just contain a bunch of materials to level up your characters faster. But I think it's a small price to pay for such a generous gacha system. Of course, it can be problematic over time if they don't give you enough currency to keep up as the game goes on, but as of right now, from what I've seen, at launch, the devs seem to be starting off pretty generously. 28,565 Analyth, which is this game's premium pull currency, 169 fabricated dice, 32 solid dice, and 105 tri-keys. These are standard banner pulls, limited banner pulls, and weapon banner pulls respectively. If this will continue, we have no way of telling as of now, but the game does at its core have a gacha system that is friendly and honest to its players, while also rewarding people for going a little bit deeper on characters that they enjoy. I think it's a great foundation for a gacha system, and as I said at its core, it is very generous. It seems like Hada Studios is going through other ways of monetizing the game so that it can keep its gacha generous as the game's lifespan goes on. On its surface, NTE's combat system is very close to being what you're used to. You build a team of 4, each having their own roles and elements. When I started playing, I originally described the combat system in a very simple way. If ZZZ and Wuwa went to the same party and had a little bit too much to drink, NTE combat would be bored. While the more I've played the game, I've noticed more and more nuances. That premise still stands to some degree. The combat's fast-paced and relies on well-timed dodges, counters, and parries to get the most out of it. But on top of that, you have this thing called an Esper cycle system. Each character has an Esper meter, and when this is full, you swap out to a teammate of an adjacent element on the Esper wheel, and they perform an intro skill, or a support skill, as it's called in this game, and trigger whatever reaction those elements perform together. There are even 3 element reactions in the game, and some characters have buffs associated with these reactions. I think that this gives NTE a combat system that everyone can play because the core parts of it are so similar, but also a system where if you care enough, you can get way more out of it than what appears on the surface. This to me gives players that want to play more casually and players that want to be a bit more competitive and min-maxy both a place to stay in the same combat system. Especially since these reactions have such varying effects like slowing the enemy and their attack speed, increasing the enemy's damage taken to specific elements, even one that lowers the target's break meter permanently for the duration of the battle. Like I said, the combat isn't something you can't get into easily. It's what you're used to at its core, but it also has a ceiling that you can strive to reach, which I do love. Previous beta tests had the combat feeling clunky and sluggish in some aspects, like something was just wrong, like you were trying to put in a puzzle piece that just didn't fit. Now though, the attacks feel good, skills don't feel like they lock you in place, swapping characters feels great, dodges and counters feel reactive. I really think it's a great combination between safe and different at the same time. If you like combat systems like ZZZs and WUAs, and you like elemental reactions kinda like Genshin, NTE has a combat system that, in a way, uses those elements, but does it well. And they all coexist to make what I consider to be a pretty damn good, like, PB&J sandwich. It just works. As for your standard daily loop, and where I'm going to be finishing this video off, you have your typical daily and weekly missions to keep you logging in every day, which would get you to do things like spend stamina, or go check in on your cafe. Speaking of stamina, you actually have 2 types of stamina in this game: character pixels and city stamina. Character pixels are exactly what you're used to. It caps out at 240, you spend it to get talent, leveling, and essential materials for your characters and arcs, alongside also being used to farm your artifacts. Artifacts in NTE do work a bit differently since they slot into a bit of a puzzle board. In order to get the most out of your characters, you're essentially looking to fill up this console screen as efficiently as possible. But the artifacts don't need to be rolled to see the stats. At level 0, you can already see every single stat the piece has, so all you have to do is level it up to unlock these stats. This eliminates the RNG aspect of leveling artifacts, which if you've played any Hoyo game, you know how much of a blessing this is. City stamina, however, refreshes on a weekly basis instead, and this is what you exhaust when you play things like challenge races, do a delivery mission, or work at your cafe. Your little tycoon city life activities. This is how you earn funds in this game, which is this game's in-world currency, and you can spend this on so many different things. Properties, cafe decor, cars, pulls and materials, some in-game cosmetics. You can even use them to bid at the auction house, and much more. Money gets you a lot in NTE, and you'll spend most of your day-to-day earning both pull currency and in-game currency simultaneously. You'll do your battles, but you'll also manage what you need to around the city and raise your tycoon level. It's not different enough to be revolutionary, but it's also not similar to where it feels like you've done it 1,000 times before. It's what you expect, logging in every day and farming for some artifacts or some materials to level your characters, with a dash of city life sprinkled into it. It's not going to be something where you do it for the first time and you start jumping for joy going, this is the best daily loop I've ever seen, I'm so happy. But it's not something that you're going to be hating either, especially if you're already used to these systems. It's just a very typical gacha daily loop. But I don't think it needs to be something revolutionary to be good. It is a tried and true format, and it's what you're used to. In fact, to me, those words kind of just summarize what I think NTE really is. It's not revolutionary. It's not the best thing since sliced bread. It's not the next gacha defining game like Genshin Impact. It's a new world, and for some, you're gonna love every single aspect of it. For some, you're not. It's not gonna be the game that turns you from a gacha hater into a gacha lover. It's not gonna be the game where if you hate standard daily loops, you're gonna find joy in this one. For some, it's not even a game you're gonna be playing for years. It is different enough to where I think it's worth everyone giving it at least a try. If you're like me, you're gonna fall in love with the world really fast. And if you don't, then you could just get rid of it and go on with your day like you would any other game. NTE isn't without its criticisms. At first, it can be really confusing to tell what's going on. Sometimes some of the puzzles are kind of just annoying to do. Like, I had extensive trouble doing one of the mannequin puzzles that I referenced earlier in the video because of a section about piano, and I don't know how to play piano. I'm tone deaf. So I had to have a literal friend do it for me because I just couldn't get it done. There are critiques to be made about NTE. The game's far from perfect, but for some, this is going to be a world that you very quickly fall in love with and you'll enjoy every second in. And I really do think it's worth at least giving it a try. If you like this video, consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help me out a ton, and I would love to see you here for more NTE content. That's going to be all from me. I'm out. Peace.